town to see Abdu'l-Baha. Abdu'l-Baha was still in prison at the time, so he thought. Because when he got to early in the morning, they took a small boat into Haifa, and some of the servants of Abdu'l-Baha met him there. And they had some breakfast, and like a teenager, he said, "Breakfast? Are you kidding? You know how long I've waited to see Abdu'l-Baha? We don't need to eat, let's go. How soon are we going to the prison city?" Right? And they said, "Just calm down, because Abdu'l-Baha has been released from his house arrest, and he's now in a position to work and supervise the construction of the mausoleum, where they're going to put the remains of the Blessed Bab. And he's rented a house here in Haifa, and we're going there now. It's just up the street." So they started walking up the street, and he said in his memoirs, he said that his knees started getting weak because he was getting closer and closer to seeing Abdu'l-Baha. And when they arrived at the house that Abdu'l-Baha had rented, they looked up the stairs, and there was Abdu'l-Baha standing there and welcoming them. Now, he had only seen a picture. You know that picture, young Abdu'l-Baha, the black beard, the black hair, young, handsome Persian man? You remember that picture, but that's the only picture he had seen of Abdu'l-Baha. And he looked up, and at the top of the stairs, Abdu'l-Baha had gray hair and a gray beard. And the first thought, he said, "Oh my God, Baha'u'llah." And then he said, no, Baha'u'llah died, 7 years before. But now he's really shaken up, He says, of course, it's Abdu'l-Baha, he's older. And then Abdu'l-Baha welcomed them to come in, and they prostrated themselves on the floor to show their respect for the master. And Abdu'l-Baha said, "Marhaba," and welcomed them and asked them to get up. And they all got up except this boy. He was flat out fainted on the floor. So now he's a mess, and Abdu'l-Baha goes over with one of the servants, and they pick him up. And Abdu'l-Baha said, "Take him in the other room and give him some tea and revive him, and then bring him back." Okay. So he had some tea, and they brought him back in. And Abdu'l-Baha looked at him and welcomed him. And then right away, he said in his memoirs, Abdu'l-Baha started telling him about a promise that Baha'u'llah made. A promise that in the future, these great souls, great teachers of the faith would be raised up as servants of the cause. In fact, for the translators, this is the first quotation on the list of the quotations that I was going to use. But this is from, this tablet, "O Phoenix of that immortal flame." You remember that tablet? Where he says, Baha'u'llah has given the most emphatic promise that souls will arise and holy beings will appear. They shall labor ceaselessly by day and night, shall heed neither trials nor woe, shall suffer no respite in their efforts, seek no repose, disregard all ease and comfort. He said, "I'm waiting, eagerly waiting for these holy ones to appear. And yet how long will they delay their coming?" So Baha'u'llah had promised Abdu'l-Baha that he would raise up these holy souls. Maybe in this conference of 4,600 there are some of those souls promised by Baha'u'llah. But at this, in the story I'm telling, Abdu'l-Baha told this young boy, 18 years old, about this promise. He looked at him and said, "Because the cause is progressing in the West, and because you know English, you're one of these souls. And I want you to stay here and serve as my secretary." So now he's thinking he's coming, to visit the resting place of the Blessed Beauty, Baha'u'llah, spend some time with the master, and then go back to his good job, But now, all of a sudden, he's in the first first he faints, right? And then in the first moment, he's told that he's one of these souls promised by Baha'u'llah, and that he's to stay and serve as his secretary. Well, now he's just amazed. He can't believe it. He's exhilarated. He's so excited. He can't stand it. And then Abdu'l-Baha goes over to one of the tables and picks up some tablets and gives it to him and said, "Now go in the other room and start translating these." And he said, you know, sometimes when you were with Abdu'l-Baha, his presence was so overwhelming that you couldn't even lift up your head in the same room. And sometimes when you were with Abdu'l-Baha, he was like a kind uncle. You could say anything. He said it was like one of those times. And he said, because I'd studied Persian and English, I looked at Abdu'l-Baha and I said, these are in Arabic. I can't do this. So Abdu'l-Baha went over to the table and he took some nabat, Persians call it nabat, you know, some rock candy, and he gave it to him and he said, take some of this rock candy and eat it, and through the grace and blessings of Baha'u'llah, you'll be able to translate. So now he goes in the other room and he eats some of the rock candy and he starts translating. But he's really struggling, you know. And eventually he said in the next few weeks somebody found an Arabic-English dictionary, and a small one, and pretty soon he knew all the words in it. And then somebody found him a bigger dictionary, and then he knew all the words in that. And then he started even studying, because you remember Professor Brown from England had met Baha'u'llah? He'd translated a lot from Arabic to English. And so he said, this young boy, he said, I started just reading and studying how E.G. Brown had translated to see. And then pretty soon he said, I was just being creative, with the help of Abdu'l-Baha, of course. But you know, I wanted to share with you this story because of that first moments in this boy's life on pilgrimage, and how it seems like it's a mirror of many of our experiences, how we, you know, whether you're born into a Baha'i family, or you discover the faith on your own, you come to a conference like this, historic, and you think, oh my God, I think, God, I'm Baha'i. This is heaven. I don't know where I would be if I wasn't Baha'i. You know? And you're exhilarated. And then you realize the work that has to be done. Right? And all these clusters and study circles and all that business. Right? And sometimes we even look and we say, well, these are in Arabic. I can't do this. You know? But then remember the rock candy part. Remember the nabat. Right? So we go like this, and then oh my God, and then the rock candy, and then it's hard work. You know, one goes after the other. This is how it is to be Baha'i, and we can't, you know the rock candy part, remember? Abdu'l-Baha said, forget yourself. God's help will surely come. When you call on the mercy of God waiting to reinforce you, your strength will be tenfold. So now, friends, this is to celebrate, House of Justice said, and to deliberate. And I wanted to share a little bit about the background. Because, you know, we've reached a point that's really midway point of a 25-year period that started in 1996. They said in 1996, until 2021, there would be this series of plans, all focused on one main theme, and that is advancing the process of entry by troops. Now, this was just the latest unfoldment, really, in the divine plan. The latest chapter, really, in the divine plan. Abdu'l-Baha gave us the divine plan in a series of letters. You know that? And then when Shoghi Effendi became the guardian, he couldn't execute all of the provisions of the divine plan right away. He had to build up our capacity. Right? In fact, I don't think that he gave sort of national plans even for something like 16 years after he became guardian. Finally, 16 years later, he felt like some of the believers in some of the countries had enough capacity and enough understanding to start to do things more systematically, together, collectively.